Hi, so today is a video of me talking about this SUQQU Signature Color Eyes collection. So this is a collection that I have collected for such a long time. Well, such a long time, I mean a year. And I do have all of them. So today I thought I would just swatch all of them and tell you how I think about them, and maybe I'll tell you which one is my which one is my real favorite. So since there's so many in front of me, let's just begin. And I will begin with the permanent shade. And this is the shade 01. And this is more of a mauve, cool-toned, muted kind of color story. So let me tell you about the concept of this quad. So this don't apply to every single quad, but most of them is in this concept. So they will have one satin or matte shade, and they will have two shimmers, and they will have one topper, like glitter topper. So the formula of this whole line, sometimes it will be more pigmented, and sometimes it's more sheer, and when it's more of a colorful story, they do make it more pigmented so that it will work better, the color will shows better. But when it's a more like easy to use, this kind of neutral brown kind of color story, it's a little bit more sheer. Not that it don't have color, not like that at all. It's very easy to use, and it's more of like a light to medium buildable kind of pigmentation. So this first shade is actually not my favorite at all, not because anything wrong with it, it's just my personal preference. I have olive skin tone, and everything that's very muted and cool toned just don't work on me, and this is both very cool toned and very muted. So yeah, this just don't work on me, but that's not said it's like not a good palette. I think if you like not very cool toned, but like cooler toned neutral kind of mauve shade, this could be for you. And you can see by the swatch, SUQQU quads don't usually swatch very nicely, I will tell you that, because like I said, they are not the most pigmented formula, so they have a little bit of sheerness to that. So if you want a very pigmented, that like what you see is 100% what you get on your eyes, this probably is not the formula for you. But if you like that very effortless, very like light, translucent. When I say translucent, I don't mean like nothing on your eyelid. This will show on your eyelid very well. It's just there is a little bit of translucency to it. I think this is just a very beautiful formula, in my opinion. I'm still trying to find a way to, make this color story work for me, but I haven't yet. And I will admit that I don't use this quad a lot at all. The next is the shade 02. So this is one of my favorite quads in their permanent shade. This is very in my kind of liking kind of color story. It's more of a neutral kind of orange color story. Maybe it sounds weird that like a neutral orange. Of course this is a warm, but when it's an orange, sometimes it can be very red, very pink, or very yellow. This is none of them. This is a very, in the middle kind of a muted orangey warm kind of toned palette, and you have this neutral leaning to cool kind of satin shade in here, so you can control how much warmness you want to have on your eyelid. So it's actually very easy to use quad in my opinion. I use this very often. This orange is probably one of my favorite orange in my entire collection, even include like eyeshadow from other company. When I want more of an easy to do, a cuter kind of orange warm toned eye look, I always reach for this one. This is really one of my most used favorite quad from them. 03. This is more of a yellowy mustardy kind of color story. So previously this color story is actually my favorite more than this 02, because I think in that period of time I'm just more into this kind of shade, and now I am more into the more orangey, warmer kind of undertone. But this is very nice as well. So for me, I always wear this when I have a formal kind of situation to go. But now it's like I stopped wearing makeup to go outside, because for me it just don't work. When I have something to do, I just don't have enough time to enjoy makeup, so I just stopped wearing makeup to meet people. So this is something that's not fits into my personal lifestyle anymore, but I still love it. I just don't reach it that much anymore, but it's still a very beautiful color story. And this is the swatch. Again, not a pretty swatch at all. Like sometime I edit my SUQQU review kind of video, and I always thought like those are the most unattractive swatch ever. Like who want to buy this seeing that swatch? But for me, it's like SUQQU is just never something that swatch very well. It just always applies so beautifully on your eyelid. It's never about the swatch. So I am just swatching this to, give you a better idea at the color. So like I said, I envision like wearing this in more of a formal kind of situation, because this is a very neutral kind of palette. And believe it or not, I feel like it's very hard to see this kind of very yellowy, mustardy kind of color story when it comes to a wearable, well, not wearable, like a daily basis kind of color story. Like this high-end, very neutral kind of quad, you just rarely see this kind of mustardy undertone. So I actually still really like this. Just like I said, I don't reach for it that much anymore. And 04. This is a very beautiful, like pinky undertone. For me, SUQQU is a brand that they rarely dupe themselves. If they redo an entire line, so of course they might be do some like repetitive color story to their previous discontinued line, but in the same line they never dupe themselves. So yeah, you can see almost every of them looks like have a different color story to them. So this one I mostly reach for when I want a cute and easy to do kind of pink look that is not too pink. It's more of a nudie pink. You can see it's really a very cute pink color story where it's definitely pink, but it's not too pink that like if standing out too much, like make your whole face looks too pink. It's just a hint of pink on your eye where it's very pretty. It's not like overly like colorful or anything. It's still very easy to use. I don't reach for this one very much because I do have some of these color in my other like collection, other products as well, but I do really like this one. The only thing about this palette is you don't have much variety out of it, because no matter how you place the color, it's it's like close to each other. If you use 3 or all of the shade, your look will be always kind of like the same. That's just the way this palette is. I do think every shade in here is necessary. And this is 05. I think this is more of the colorful kind of palette in the permanent shades. And this palette is also a little bit more pigmented than the other permanent shade. It's more closer to the formula in their limited edition line because, like I said, these are more colorful. It just needs a little bit more pigmentation to, you know, make the color work. And here is the swatch. I think this might be a little bit odd kind of color choice to some people because here is a very intense red shade and the rest of the shades are all so neutral, even like a little bit cool toned. But I think this is the way that SUQQU select their shade. Their shade always looks a little bit random, that you don't know how they can work together. But when you put it on your eye, you can see they actually work very beautifully. I think this is just a very classic way of wearing red, where the red is obviously will stand out, but it's not like overly red. The other shade can tone down the red very much, so I think it's a very mature way of wearing red. I don't reach for this palette a lot at all. Maybe it's because, you know, you have to decide to do this kind of look. And for me, it's always like I don't know what to do, and I will just choose a palette and decide what to do today. So I never just thought about, oh, I want to do a very classic red kind of makeup. I rarely think that way, but it's not like this palette is not good or anything. I think if you are somebody that always want to try a red eyeshadow, but you just don't know how it will work on you because you just always use neutral shades, I think this could be a easier or more, how to say, not as scary kind of way of trying this red, because it is a red, but it's a red with a little bit of depth onto it, so it's not like a pure super vibrant kind of red. It's, like I said, it's very mature way of wearing red. The next is 06. It's their most cool toned color in their permanent line, and I actually really like this. This is such a sexy kind of color story, and I don't think you can tell from just looking at this. When I wear this, I feel like it just gives you that kind of supermodel kind of look. When you watch the Chanel commercial, the model always have this kind of like muted grayish kind of color, but they do have like sometimes or a lot of times has a little hint of green or like blue. I think this kind of muted green or blue just very classy and very sexy. Well, at least in my opinion. You can see on the skin, it doesn't look that colorful at all. It's just a very classy, neutral kind of color story. And I do think this look on the eye works very well together, even if you would use all of the shade, they work together like very seamlessly. I do really like this one. I think last year is a year for me that I enjoy warmer undertoned a little bit more, so I just didn't reach for this a lot, but I do really like it. I just think this kind of color story will never go out of style. The next is a newer one. This is in their 2022 spring collection. Is 07 BENISAKI. It's a very deep, very vibrant color story for a spring kind of launch, but I do think it's still, it can fit in the spring color story. It's just a little bit different kind of touch where it has a little bit more depth to it. I do like this one, but if you saw my review on this, you can see I'm struggling with this shade because it is like a topper kind of formulation where it's quite translucent. But this is a shimmer and it's not a glitter, so like a translucent shimmer, I just don't know how to use it. But the rest of the shade I like, I love them all. So I do like this palette in a whole, but I just don't know how much I will reach for this gold shade. I will for sure use these three. You probably can tell from the swatch that this palette is a little bit more pigmented than other palettes because, like I said, it's more colorful, but just this gold is not very pigmented. So if you want to get this palette and you want this gold to be a very pigmented gold, maybe you should try to see it in person before you buy it. If you do have a counter you can, easily access to. But if you don't, maybe make sure to see as much of a review as possible before you buy this, because I don't think that gold will show much on your eyelid at all. And if you want to see my review, I will leave it in the card. The last one in the permanent line, 08 KAZENADE. It's such a beautiful color story that they really don't have in their line. So I think this is such a beautiful, addition to their collection, and I love this taupe shade. This is the same shade as the Tom Ford color, like the Tom Ford single like cream eyeshadow in the shade Platinum, and also is the same shade with the Charlotte Tilbury, the pot cream eyeshadow in the shade Oyster Pearl. And I also have a review of this palette where I compared all of the three. They basically look identical. So if you like that kind of shade but you do prefer a powder form, I do think this palette, like this shade, is very good for that. And on top of that, you got other three very beautiful color as well. So if you like this kind of color story, maybe you can check it out. It's very beautiful. That's all of the permanent shades. Next, let's talk about all of the limited edition shades. We have 12 here. Okay, the first is the shade 101, HARUGUMO. So it means spring cloud. I don't know if this really speaks spring cloud for me, but I do think it's a very beautiful color story. Like half of it is more of a blue and half of it is more of a warm orange kind of color story. It's a very big contrast, but it actually works with each other very nicely. It's very spring when you use those two colors together. Again, the swatch is just never will look very pretty when it comes to SUQQU, but the formula, when you apply it on your lid, is very beautiful. And yeah, this is not a very standing out quad in my own opinion, but I do really like this color story. I think it's very cute if you like this kind of color. So next is 1 102 is this very beautiful pinky color story. I think this is in their summer collection, if I'm not wrong. And this is a very summer color story. I think this is more of a strawberry kind of theme. Yeah, let's swatch it. So you can see it's very pink. So if you don't like pink eyeshadow, maybe this kind of color story maybe it's not for you. And on top of that, you can't get this anymore. But in my opinion, I actually really like this palette. It's just you have to be committed to a pink eyeshadow to use this. But this is very pretty. I will never get rid of this. Here is the same in the same collection as 103. This is more of a purple color story, obviously. So this is more at my kind of preferred color story. This purple swatch like garbage, but it looks so beautiful and it blends so easily on your eye. So that's why I against the idea to tell if a formula is good or not by swatching them, because you just never know, because you don't apply your eyeshadow like that on your lid. You blend it with a brush, or even if you would use your finger, you blend it. You don't just, you know, swiping it around. I have a playlist for all of the SUQQU reviews I have done. And in that video, you can see this is such a beautiful quad and it applies so beautifully on the eyelid. I don't have a single purple that looks like this in my collection, so I think this is one of my favorite purple quad. I really love this one, and it's not too purple at all, because all of these three, they are all like different shades, like pinks, like silver and brown with a hint of purple, and with a pure violet kind of purple. It's so beautiful. I want to know the person that select these shades in the SUQQU quad, because they are too beautiful. The next would be their, I'm not sure, maybe this is also their summer collection, because sometimes they have two collections for one season. So this also looks like a summer, and this is my favorite, another of my favorite orange kind of palette from them. This orange is so pretty. It's such a cute but very orangey kind of orange shade. Like every time I just think about like orange juice when I use this. I just love this so much. Again, it's swatched like a garbage, but I do think it's looking so beautiful on the eyes, especially these two. Like these two, I have no words. I use them all the time. This is one of my most used quad in their limited edition shades. So the next is 105, is the shade YOISEKISORA. Yeah, this is definitely a very summery kind of palette. I think when it's in the Western market, we often see a lot of very warm color stories for summer. But I think in Asian, we a lot of times see more cooler toned color in summer collection as well. But because it's the season that you want to eat or drink more of the icy kind of thing, like ice cream and iced coffee, and this is kind of that kind of touch, like an icy kind of color in the summer, so you would feel more like cooled down. And I actually really like this one as well. It's just not something that I will reach for a lot. here is your not very pretty looking swatch. And like I said, I do really like this. I just don't reach for it a lot because it's a color story that you have to be in the mood for. But the quality is very nice. And next is one of my favorite in their limited edition line. It's 106. It's from their fall collection, and this is a very fall kind of color story. Like all of the color of the dry leaves, like this green is so beautiful. It looks the same. This is the color you get on your eyelid. And in my whole collection, I don't have a green that looks like this. And actually, it's such amazing color. I don't know why not, like, at least the company I know never made something like this. This is more unique in their entire line because in this palette you got 2 mattes, 1 satin, and 1 topper. There's no shimmer in this palette, and I think that makes sense because with this kind of like color, it just works better when it's satin or matte, and I love this one so much. I hope they will do something like this again in their line because they just never bring back their limited edition quads, no matter how good is, how good it is or how well received they are. And the next is in the same collection as the previous one, where is from the fall collection. And you can see this is still a very full kind of color story, like this very green kind of taupey shade and all of these very muted colors. It's all very full, but it's such a different way of doing a full color story. It's so unique. Before I use it, I can never thought like what kind of look I can do from this because it's such an odd kind of color story if you really look at it. It's like everywhere the color, like a orange, a blue, like a purple, and a greenish taupe, but you never thought to pair those shades together in your mind. But when it's together, it works so nicely with each other. I never fail with my eye makeup when I use this palette. Every time it's so beautiful. And I just don't know, I just want to know the very clever person that made all of these amazing color stories, and this is so unique. I really hope they will do something like this again. Oh, this one swatch awful. The swatch is so awful. It will make you think the quality is garbage, but it's really not. If you would watch the video that I put this on my eye, you would know they don't work like how it's swatched. So the next I think is from their pre-holiday collection. The packaging is a little bit different. There is like a very glittery finish to it. This is actually quite a holiday like color story already. But I can see why it's pre-holiday because it's not as intense. So this palette actually has a new formula in their line. It's this one. It's more of a sequin kind of shade. It's a matte base with a ton of glitter. But this is not that kind of sequin shade where when you blend on your eye, you can never see the glitter. It all blends away. It's actually showing very much. You can see the glitter and the matte base at the same time. That's why I love this. I love this formula so much. It just makes your eye look so glam and smoky in a second. Like this shade. It looks like a nothing when you look at it, but I think this is the star of the palette. I really like this shade. Whenever I want a very easy smoky eye, I reach for this collection. And the next is the same. It has this very like sequin glittery shade in here, and it's very good for a smoky eye, but this is more of a cool tone smoky eye, and I really appreciate they put orange in them because our Asian undertone, we're very warm. I'm a very warm olive undertone person. If this quad don't have this orange shade, it won't work for me. So this shade can blend all of this very cool toned shade into my skin tone. So I just think it's so well thought kind of shade, and I can really tell this is something Asian made for Asian people. So like I said, I really like this color story. Whenever I want to do a very muted but still suits my undertone kind of cool toned smoky kind of look, I think about this quad. This is their holiday collection, and you can see it's very Christmas kind of holiday vibe. It's their 110 quad, and I would be honest that I don't reach for this color story a lot. Not saying I don't like it, I just never, you know, thinking of doing something like this, but it is very pretty and very holiday. And they do also have this like very glittery kind of sequin matte kind of eyeshadow where it's really very holiday. I love to just pat this shade all over my eyelid, and it's so glam and so smoky. So this one, like I said, I don't reach for a lot, but I do very like this color story and the quality of this. So this one is the last one of their holiday collection, and you can see it is also a very random kind of color story where you have a very yellowy pale gold, and it's a taupe, a green with golden glitter, and a very yellowy orange. You would think this is such an odd kind of palette. How do you like put those shades together? But it just works very nicely on your eye. Like, I do have a video for this, and I do put all of these on my eye. I love it. I love it. Like, they work together very seamlessly, very like the people that made all of these colors are just genius. I can't say that enough. And they just do these kind of taupes very well, and they do the most pretty like variation of oranges. Like I said, I think this color story is so beautiful, so unique, and also you can actually do a lot with just this single palette. I love it so much. And the last one is the most recent one they have released. So for this color, it's a part of their spring collection for 2022, and I do think this one is the most spring looking palette out of the three. And for this palette, it's more about the texture rather than the color, because all of these three, they all kind of serves as a topper, where I mean these two do have a more of a base color, but they are, yeah, like I said, more about the texture rather than the color. And this is more of a base that you put all over your lid, and you just adjust what tone, what kind of tone do you want with these three. And I do really like this kind of concept. I mean, these just never swatch very pretty, but that's just the way it is. And even though I don't think this would be like my favorite kind of color story, because it's just, you know, every look you do from this quad will be like a very light and very spring. I'm just not always in the mood of that, so that's why it's not my like top favorite. And on top of that, I will admit that this is not the most unique color story, right? So yeah, even though that's not my top favorite, but I do like this one as well. Whenever I want this kind of very light and glitter spring cute kind of look, I will reach for this. So that's all of the swatch, and I do want to mention a couple of my favorites. So from the permanent shades, I only have two. A part of that is because they don't have as much, you know, permanent shade as how much they have in their limited edition lines. The top favorite is obviously this one, the 02, the more subtle orangey warm toned color. I use this one non-stop. If I start using this, I just keep wanting to reach for it every day. And one day I'll just like, oh, I should stop reaching for this because I have such a big collection. I got to use some other products. And then I just stopped using this, and one day I remember this and start using this. It's like, again, I just can't stop reaching for this. I just love it. It's my #1 favorite in the permanent shades. And the other one is 06, because in my opinion, this kind of shade is actually, at least at my collection, is a little bit unique. It's unique in a way that it's still very easy to use. And it's just such a sexy and mature kind of quad that I really like it. I don't reach for it as much as the 02, obviously, but I do love it. These are all my favorites from the limited edition line. First one is, of course, this orange. This orange and the orange in the permanent shade 02 is the favorite orange shades out of my whole collection. I love orange. I have a lot of orange shades, but these two are my favorite. When I think of orange eyeshadow, I reach for one of these two. And this kind of orange juice summer color story is just so beautiful. And this glitter, in my opinion, this glitter is the most beautiful glitter in all of their quads. And the next is, of course, this fall color story. This is just so unique that I don't have anything like this. I really love it. Like whenever I want a green, like a muted, not so intense kind of green, I reach for this. And this orange glitter topper is so pretty as well. And also from the fall collection, it's such a unique palette, and this palette is the same. If there isn't this orange shade, this won't work for my very warm undertone, but because there is this shade, this just can blend all of these very cool toned muted shade into my like complexion. It just works for me so nicely. It's like a subtle contrast to my very warm undertone, and it's so pretty. I have no words. And this is their pre-holiday collection one. Because of this shade just make this whole palette work so nice for me. I just love this whenever I have a smoky, I want a smoky kind of glam look. And this is the same. It's like whenever I want a warmer smoky eye, I reach for this. If I want a cooler tone eye, I reach for this. I will say that I don't use this one, this like very grayish purple that much, because sometimes I do think this make my eyelid look a little bit muddy, but because of this orange, it blends all of that into my skin tone, and it looks, every time without a fail, it looks so amazing. And the last is this one. I just love this like formula for a glam smoky eye kind of look, and on top of that, this is very unique and some way very like work into each other very seamlessly kind of color story. I just love it so much. I don't use it that much, I will admit that, but whenever I pick this up and use it, I'm very pleased with my look. So yeah, that's why it's in my favorite. So me actually mentioning all of this is not telling you to buy this because they are not available anymore. And if you would buy from like a reseller, it can be very, very expensive because they are already expensive, and those kind of people will make it like way more, like twice or third price. So don't buy it from somebody like that. Just if you really want this kind of like aesthetic, this kind of very easy to use but still colorful, fun kind of concept, just wait for they do like limited edition. They do a lot of limited edition every year without an exception. Like they will do a limited edition collection every 2 months. Definitely they will do it. So just wait for when there is a launch that is like the color story that you want, and just wait for it. And they normally do a second restock with their launch. At least at Selfridges, it is like that. So don't panic and purchase from somebody sell this very, very ridiculous price. So just wait. They will always have something new. But I do think if you just want a very easy to use color story and you want to try the like SUQQU formula, their permanent line is good enough. It's just they rarely do very fun, colorful story in their permanent shades. But in my experience with SUQQU, it's like the first launch of their permanent shades, they will all do all of the like must-have daily basis neutral kind of color story. From that, they will gradually release some more fun, colorful story also in their permanent line. Just be patient. Don't spend too much money when there will always be new makeup on the market. I feel like when people purchase SUQQU product, they get panic because they sold out too quickly, and that's one of their problem. But like I said, just spend your money wisely and wait patiently for their new launch. I'm losing my voice. So hopefully this is helpful, and thank you for watching. Bye.